Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you, Elise. My name is
Nice to
Pastor
see
Eric
you.
Shafer, and I am the senior pastor here at Mount Olive Lutheran Church in Santa Monica, California, and this is Hope Matters. Hope Matters is our weekly program where we talk to interesting people from around the community and around the nation and even around the world about the theme of hope, because we believe that hope matters. My guest today is my dear friend, the Reverend Dr. J. Elise Brown, who has a number of occupations, but one of her principal ones is executive minister of Marble Collegiate Church in New York City. She's also a professor at Lehman College in the Bronx of New York City, and she has several other hats that she wears. But Elise, so glad you could be with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be part of this.
Some of our viewers may recognize that name, Marble Collegiate Church. If they're older folks, they might remember famous pastors from the past. But tell us a little bit about the congregation you serve.
Well, it's founded in 1628, so it has a long and very rich history. Dutch Reformed in its history, and now is duly affiliated with the Reformed Church in America and the United Church of Christ. Extremely ecumenical congregation, extremely diverse congregation, people from all over the world, and really extends to people of all racial backgrounds. We have a very strong LGBTQIA community, people of all economic backgrounds, and so it's a very vibrant place that is on the corner of 29th and 5th Avenue in Manhattan. It's been in this location since 1854. And prior to that was downtown in what was the New York City port when it was first established, so many years ago.
But you're an ELCA, a Lutheran pastor. How did you end up at a UCC, Reformed Church in America congregation?
You know, it's a full communion partner of the ELCA, and they reached out to me in 2017 with this position, executive minister. And, you know, I had never really thought about serving in a non-Lutheran setting. I mean, it's not that it's non-Lutheran, but in a setting that's not part of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America. But the role was really of great interest to me. I feel like it really has, used all of the various skill sets that I have. And it was kind of exciting to be part of a global church in the way that Marble is. Marble has been on the radio and on TV and doing virtual ministry for decades, really, for a really long time. And just also the vibrancy of the place, the diversity of the place, how welcoming it is. It's really focused on the newcomer, the person who's completely outside of the church and looking for faith and God and community. And so the richness of that really drew me in a very, very significant way. It's been a delightful place to be.
That's really wonderful. Well, I was going to say, all of us were playing catch up when COVID started to get online and get on YouTube and those things. But your congregation was already doing Facebook Live and YouTube services. So it wasn't a big jump for you, I guess.
No, and in fact, we benefited greatly from having all these archives. So we have all these services that we've done over so many years. And what we've done in this, time of pandemic, where we've been completely online, is we've pulled from those previous services that we have. And that's really a blessing that we have. We're not having to do everything new every single week. We do a lot of new stuff. We do a lot of virtual choir stuff, but yeah, and one of the big questions that we're asking ourselves now, which probably other people are asking too, is how do we maintain the virtual connections that we've established during this time with people from all over the world when we begin to go back in person to the building? And so I'm sure that's something that a lot of other ministers across the country of varying, denominational backgrounds are really having to ponder during these days.
We're at the same point. And as I mentioned to you when we spoke the other day, with our worship attendance up 40%, a number of those are not in Santa Monica. And then we've had 5 families move other places, and they have, but why would they move congregations right now? There's no reason to. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting, but these are good problems to have when you have an increase in people paying attention to your worship service.
That's right.
So it's all good. Now, you also are a professor at Lehman College.
Mhm.
Uh, Lehman College, is that a state school, a private school? What sort of a university is that?
It's one of the colleges of the City University of New York system. So it's one of the senior social science schools, and I teach in the sociology department at Lehman College,
Which
part of
is,
the CUNY system
that's what
in
your
New York.
PhD is in, is it not, in sociology?
Sociology, yep, yep. And I've been at Lehman since the fall of 2015 and have stayed on there even after I transitioned to Marble in the fall of 2017. I've maintained my position at Lehman, and it's been an incredible joy. It's an amazing college because it's really committed to helping for first generation people go to college, and has received a lot of awards over the years as a place that's really truly committed to trying to help promote education and help move people forward in that way, in a way that perhaps their family of background was not able to do. So it's a very vibrant place. It's a big school. We have a really large department. The sociology department is one of the largest departments at the college, and students from all over the world. It's an amazing place to be.
Yeah, I was going to say, you are just like at church, you're teaching virtually now too, right?
Yes, we are. Yeah, so the middle of the spring semester last year, we transitioned in the middle of the semester from being in person to being online. That was hard. That was very, very challenging. It really revealed a lot of the technology gaps that students had, and so there was a lot of work that was done at Lehman to try to make laptops available to students and Wi-Fi hotspots and all those sorts of things. Then we did the fall semester completely remote, and then we're doing this semester also completely remotely. And there is talk of being back in person in the fall of this year. We'll see if that happens. As of right now, the faculty, at least in the college and university system in New York City, aren't eligible for the vaccine unless they fall into some of the other eligibility categories. So that's of great concern. And there are faculty that are really, really concerned about being back in person before they have received the vaccine.
And then in your spare time, you also consult with congregations to help them in crisis and through transitions and things like that.
Yep. All those sorts of things. And also in development work, capital campaigns and debt reduction campaigns and all those sorts of things that can really hamper a church's full potential of being able to do their ministry really well and fully. But we are, so many of our churches are in transition. I mean, we're sort of all in transition, aren't we? So sometimes you just need a set of outside eyes with a different perspective to kind of take a look at what's going on, do some analysis of it, and then come back with some suggestions that can be pondered, considered, and possibly implemented in the local congregational setting. So it's very exciting work, actually. It's very, very exciting, very interesting, and very, very exciting.
That's wonderful. So you have your arms and your legs in a number of different worlds, and so the logical question for this program is, in those various worlds where you live and breathe, where do you find hope?
That is such a great question. And it's interesting because I'll actually start in responding to that question with the students I have at Lehman. I often, wonder if they're coming from any kind of a faith background. And sometimes it's revealed through different assignments we do. I teach a class in the sociology of death, dying, and bereavement. And that class really looks at all the different ways that, faith communities ritualize dying, the dying process and death, et cetera. So through that, I'm able to see, if these students have had any background in any kind of religious upbringing or any faith, and also kind of get a sense of like, where does their hope come from? And I will tell you that a lot of times what I hear from them is that it comes from community. Hope comes from people who embody love in action, who really make love and caring and compassion come alive in a very profound way. And certainly during this pandemic, oh my goodness, we've seen so much of that throughout this country, but all around the world, where people have the capacity for the good within them to come forth and to help people that they have no relationship with, have never known before, and yet they care and they help. And I find great hope in the human capacity to love and to care and to reach beyond ourselves. Bishop Michael Curry has written this recent book called Love is the Way. And in it, he says, that love is embodied, and that embodied love means kind of a willingness to give outside of oneself, sacrifice for the sake of the other. And then he says, the opposite of love, if you take that kind of a position with what love is, the opposite is not hate, it's selfishness, an unwillingness to share beyond oneself. So I find hope in people's willingness and their ability to rise to great challenges and think of others, first before they think about themselves.
That's wonderful, Elise. Thank you. Thank you. That's just great. I appreciate that. And it is so true. Gee, Michael Curry is such an inspirational preacher and writer anyway. Everybody knows the sermon from the wedding. So
and that book, interestingly, the subtitle is Finding Hope in Troubled Times. And he was writing this book before the pandemic.
Right.
So the fact that it came forth right now in the midst of all that's been going on in this country in so many different ways is, a very interesting coincidence.
Sure. Well, thank you. I think we have hit it on the head here with talking about hope today. And I'm so glad that you could join us for this conversation, Elise.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Eric.
Well, it's just been a pleasure to kind of have contact with dear friends this way too, which has been a lot of fun for me, as you can imagine. I should tell our viewers that Pastor Elise was Chris and my pastor in New York City and became one of our best friends, and that has continued. And Mount Olive people will remember her, that she was here for my 40th ordination anniversary and helped with that service a few years ago. And we're going to have to wait for the 45th party a little later, I think. I was hoping to do it in June, but we'll do it when we can. Hopefully we'll get you out here again, Elise, sometime in the future. So that'd be grand. So,
I'd love to come back again.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us. This is Hope Matters, a weekly program by Mount Olive Lutheran Church in which we talk to interesting people about the theme of hope. Our guest this week has been the Reverend Dr. J. Elise Brown, Executive Minister of Marble Collegiate Church in New York City, professor at Lehman College in the Bronx, and many other activities in her life. And thank you for being with us today, Elise.
Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. This is Hope Matters, because we believe in hope. We believe we have a God of hope. We'll see you next week. Thank you.